the all-seeing eye of Horus on the secular movement. I'm your host, Rob Moore, the Deacon of Doubt. With me, as always, he's leading the life of Brian. He is the Imam of Incertitude. Say hello, Brian Edward.
Hello, Brian Edward.
It never gets old, does it? Also with us, we have the secretary, I think, of Skepticism, Megan Ivanyo. She got a microphone? Yeah.
Hi, Brian Edward.
She looks at me sideways whenever I give her a moniker. We are podcasting, as always, every Sunday afternoon here at 2 p.m. from the Bucketworks location here in the beautiful Grand Avenue Mall, the historic Plankinton building, downtown Milwaukee, where winter has smacked us in the gob, has it not, Brian?
It has. And if you were at the Wisconsin-Northwestern game like I was, you would have felt that firsthand.
What was the outcome for our college football fans?
Lost 13-7 Northwestern on a terrible call, one of the worst calls I've ever seen in college football. 3 steps in the end zone and a knee and an elbow, and they called it, he didn't complete the catch. So apparently you must propose and marry the football and take it home in order to...
A little flaw in the game of football, like rules that have to change regarding fumbles and catches and what's a catch and what's a tackle, and so
it was one of the worst calls I've ever seen.
Well, sad for the Badger, apparently. But enough college football. Here we are with a secular podcast, and what we do every week is bring exciting guests from around the globe. Temporal, topical, exciting, informative, mythicistic, atheistic guests. And if you like what we do, please consider supporting our Patreon page. You can pledge as little or as much as you like per show or per time period. Check it out. Follow the links at MythicistMKE.com. And tonight's guest is an old friend of the program. And I have to say that when I was a patrician in Connecticut, my old chums and I used to play a game, Brian, called Name the Most Rural, Forgotten, Irrelevant State in the Union. Of course, you had to back up your choice.
Do you want me to take a guess?
Go ahead. What would be your guess?
The most, do we have to say state?
State, yes.
So I'm not allowed to pick Guam?
No, not Guam.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to say Mississippi.
That's not a bad guess, but of course the answers generally came down to, West Virginia, Mississippi, Idaho, either Dakota, or the state that our guest hails from today, Alabama. Of course, I tease, but many states like to brag, and many of our guests come from the South, and they like to brag that they're from the buckle of the Bible Belt, but none has any better claim than Alabama, sadly best known as the home of fictional character Forrest Gump. Our guest
from Greenbow,
Alabama. Our guest is an atheist activist that hails from Alabama. He has over 79,000 Facebook likes and over 4,800 YouTube subscribers. He's an advocate of reason over faith and a proponent of the mythicist position. His overall mission for his activism is to build a safe place for atheists, agnostics, and secular humanists to share their comments and find common ground. So without further ado, the only thing Alabama has to offer besides NASCAR and college football hooliganism, John, don't call me Jackie Gleason, the Godless Engineer. What's up, Godless?
Hey guys, how's it going? Just to be clear, we also do have NASA here, so I mean we got that working for us.
NASA?
Yeah, the Marshall Space Flight Center. They tested some of the Apollo rockets here.
Do tell. I think most people are familiar with Houston and Cape Kennedy, but
well, yeah,
Alabama.
those are actually launch pads. Those guys are. This is more of like a research and development kind of facility that's here. And during the Apollo missions, there was a number of rockets that were built and tested here in North Alabama. And we've actually, I think Von Braun actually was based out of Huntsville, Alabama, is where he primarily worked at with the space program.
Say that name again? You're breaking up a little bit.
Well, Von Braun, he actually had his base I guess, like where he primarily worked at was here in North Alabama. So, during the Apollo missions, they tested and developed several rockets, rocket engines and whatnot that are here. We have a number of memorial stuff that's set aside. Like we have one of the few remaining public displays of the shuttle, which I think might have actually been carted off here recently. But we used to have like a shuttle that was actually flown in space that was here at the U.S. Space Camp.
Right. Yeah, in Huntsville, Alabama, I believe. I spent a night down there when I was a kid, and they had a replica of the Saturn V rocket that took Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and Collins to the moon.
Oh yeah, they had that. They also had the newer shuttles. They had one of them. I can't remember which one, but they had it on display at one time as well.
Nice, nice. Speaking of space, and those that deny that the Earth revolves around the sun, in some cultures, what do you make of religion's influence on the recent Paris goings on?
The recent Paris attacks you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to say that Islam didn't have any kind of part in it, but I mean, it clearly does, even if it's the radical thing. I mean, to say that Islam didn't have some kind of influence on their motivations is a lot like saying Christianity has no motivation, or the Westboro Baptist Church doesn't use Christianity as part of their motivation. And I mean, both, you know, the Westboro Baptist Church is definitely Christian, and so were the people that carried out the attacks. Now, whether or not those attacks were known by the actual ISIS group or whatnot, or if it was just some kind of guys with a wild hair up their butt that was going out there to cause some havoc, either way, they supported the actions. So that's pretty much what I think about the Paris attacks that occurred.
I don't know who tries to deny that Islam has any part in it. I mean, it's just silly. Sean likes to point out that there's all this talk under the table about Islam is about peaceful. But where are the people? Where are the Muslims coming out en masse to protest this fringe, sect of theirs that's really responsible for perpetrating most of the widespread evil in the world today? Where are they? There was like one guy we could find.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, even though like the actions that are taken by some Muslims are varied from radical to more conservative, or not as radical, I should say. Still, the ideas, penetrate almost every level of the Islamic culture in general, and you could tell this because like those that disagree with the attacks that are Muslim, they would still agree like, oh yeah, well, they had it coming because they were doing this and that. I mean, you even have Christian preachers here in the United States that are saying that exact same thing. You've got Stephen Anderson in Arizona that's saying that the Paris attacks were deserved judgment from God, basically, because of them living in sin and all this other stuff. So I mean, you've got the radical Islamists, and then you also have the radical Christians that are saying the same thing, and it's just it's ridiculous to think that it doesn't penetrate every level of the Islamic culture, because even the ones that have found peaceful ways to implement the religion still think that these things are bad and people need to be punished for simply drawing an ancient figure that liked little girls. So it still penetrates it. We still need to combat the actual religion. But a lot of people get lost in this whole Islamophobia thing. And to me personally, this is my own personal opinion, I feel like it's kind of a useless word because it's so broad in its definition, because it's not only used to silence those that want to criticize the religion, but it's also used to reference those that actually that are actually being xenophobic and racist towards, the Muslim population. And a lot of people like to get me on the whole racism part, but that's coming from a Southern boy myself. I know that a lot of people, they'll look at somebody and automatically deem them as Muslim just by the way they look, either their skin color, how they dress. I mean, that's pretty rampant in that mindset. So that's what I really think that the distinction is xenophobia and racism. And then you've got the crowd that wants to just silence people criticizing the religion in general.
Yeah, you're right. And the overuse of the word Islamophobia is creating a boy who cried wolf, because there are real Islamophobes out there. And it's the fact that we're calling so many people that aren't. It really loses its purchase. But I feel that, like you said, the moderates, to their credit, are coming out and condemning the attack, at least online in their own media. But we're not seeing marches. But still, what's not happening on the moderate is a look at the scripture. The moderates will still say that the scripture itself is inerrant. It's just they're looking at the nice verses in the Quran rather than the evil. And that's what we have to do, is say that, no, that scriptural inerrancy of the Quran is an issue, and moderates and radicals are on the same page there. They'll say, no, it's truly the word of God, the last and final word of God, and that's I think our issue.
I think it's a problem. It's a problem with Christian fundamentalists as well. The moderates are the same way. It's still, they won't get.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I wholly agree with that. It's a problem across any religion with their radicals.
Right, and they don't have a large, powerful secular base in their own countries to combat the religious ideology that's going on. Right now, in America, we have a large secular base. So I think some of the radical Christians, if they had a 99% following and all of the power, atheists and gays could very well be in camps here in America. So, Christianity could do this as well. It's just we have a bulwark. They don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of built into the faith, though, is to silence those that want to be more secular or whatnot. Because, I mean, if you just look at the news, you've got a Palestinian poet in Saudi Arabia that just got the death sentence for blaspheming Allah, and then you've got Radif Badawi.
The death.
Yeah, you got Radif Badawi, who is currently serving time for just being an atheist blog writer and blaspheming Allah. And, he's getting 1,000 lashes, altogether for just simply doing that. And then you've also got people on Twitter that are saying, hey, you secular, or you people that left the Islamic faith, you deserve to die. I mean, there's tweets of people that are exactly doing that, and that's how they keep, this secular base of Muslims or secular Muslims, I guess, to such a small number, if there is a number at all. Did I lose you guys? I lost them. Hold on.
The Google subscriber you have called is not available. Please.
You there, man?
Hey, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. No, it's our fault. I think our internet just sucks.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we're gonna
To be
have to finally invest in
put it
some real
bluntly.
bandwidth.
Yeah, but we were agreeing with you basically that this the phenomenon exists, and it's unfortunately it takes its toll in a more violent way in Islam. But to me, moderate Christians are the same way. There's that built-in default. Yes, it's the Word of God. Yes, it's divinely inspired. However you choose to put it, it amounts to the need for a justification or rationalization about how it could have survived all these translations, how it could have we're putting it into different versions. People have a level of cognitive dissonance that baffles me. But sooner or later, somebody got to call these people out. It's not. This contradiction is wrong. The Quran is only half a Bible, or a Bible, a book of peace. And the other half is you can't just dismiss it because you want to cherry pick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. I was distracted for a second.
They're just agreeing with you that Christians moderate Christians taking the Bible as the Word of God is contribute to the problem of fundamentalism.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. And right now in America, you're seeing two camps really kind of surge up, and that's the more progressive Christians and then the fundamentalists. And the fundamentalists right now are really clawing, to remain relevant and to remain like at the top, basically. And but yeah, I mean they hold the same kind of ideals, and even the progressive Christians. I mean, if you ask them, they'll have a much more amicable approach to it, but at the same time, they still feel like like the Bible is the true word of God, and that homosexuals are going to die, basically. And so, I mean, you just have this wide range of different interpretations of it, but when you get down to it, it's all just kind of pretty dressing for just the horrible stuff that's underneath.
No doubt. In fact, we snuck in incognito recently to a Baptist church to watch Ken Ham talk about building a giant ark, of course, that's real because he's a young earth creationist. And the congregation there ate up every word, and there was really no dissension on something that scientifically is an impossibility. And the rhetoric about the gays and the secularists was very bad. It was that you can cast a judgment on these people. They're going to be the demise of America. And I was shocked to hear it firsthand and see people ooh and ah.
Yeah, I didn't go. Talk to us a little bit more about that experience, Megan. Tell us what you thought of that and what went on.
Yeah, it was packed, first off. There was like valet and people out in the parking lot directing traffic. It was hugely 600 people, Sean's telling me. We all took up about one row of us. And the thing that I got from Ken's talk was the amount of resources he's willing to use and bragging about the amount of timber that they need for this. And this was a good thing. He's going to take out a small rainforest in the name of Christianity because this thing's going to be huge. He kept going on and on about how big it's going to be. It's just going to be big. And that was his selling point to the congregation was, secular people are going to want to come here.
Yeah, big as a phenomenon, not big necessarily as an arc.
No, big.
Both big.
Literally big.
Literally huge. Well, cubits, right? Isn't it measured in cubits? I mean, come on.
515 feet. This is cutting out. 85 feet high. And I think he showed pictures of the construction and thanking all the help. There's just been so much help. So many people have donated their time. One guy did this back in the day with, minimal help and tools, and it's taking this huge team years to do it. And $91 million project.
Yeah. Well,
and to them it seems worth it to spread Christianity. But yeah, they're going to have animal acts as well, which as a vegan is very worrying to me.
Are they going to eat them?
I just think circus. That's
I know.
what I'm thinking. And who's going to keep them accountable for the treatment of these animals? I actually started an online petition to stop him from spending using all this timber on this ridiculous endeavor.
It should be illegal. I agree.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess just to add on top of it, I mean, they apparently they're going to be having a restaurant on top of the Ark.
Yes.
So I'm kind of curious where they're going to be pulling this food from.
Well, that's authentic. That's authentic.
And he said that secular, I can't pronounce that well, sorry, are going to want to rent out their space for their conventions, and they're so deluded about the view that people have towards this project.
Every cruise has a good cafeteria and restaurant, so why wouldn't the Ark? A little casino, little theater, some shows, you know.
I don't know. I'm not a cruise kind of person. I'm definitely not an Ark kind of person. He really feels that people will want to have this experience and that it's important.
The people who are sick of going to the Creation Museum, they need somewhere else to go. It's the same people. And they're
going to want to come because it's just going to be so big.
Are they going to float it?
It's going to be, you know.
Is it dry docked?
Thing of awe.
Yeah, it's on stilts right now, basically. I mean, like concrete stilts, and it's being held up by, like, I think 3 or 4 buildings that they've had to build beside it.
Here's what I think. I think that we should fund it for him as Americans, fund the whole Ark for him, make sure it's seaworthy, and then put his ass on it and sail him back to Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were talking about the foolishness of the secular people and how they're going to overcome, and they were eating it up and smiling and laughing, at each other, and I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening.
I would be an extra.
I hope so.
I'd be an extra when we could go and we could pretend we were the victims of the drowning as the rains came, and we get all the secular people. We could stand outside the Ark and just drowning, no, let us in, Noah, let us in, no.
Yeah. Well, I think that this Ark really is going to financially bankrupt Kentucky, or at least put them in a very bad financial position overall, because of the way that they're getting their money. That what they're basically doing is they're rezoning that area so that they can get these no interest loans from the government. And basically with these type of loans that you get, you end up paying them back with your property taxes, right? And so if you have something that's going to consistently put out like a decent amount of profit so that you can pay your taxes and whatnot, and it goes back to paying that, I mean, it theoretically it can turn out to be a good thing, but you have to have like the profit in order to support it. But you see, the problem with the Ark is that they've used their own biased estimators, basically, to suggest that the Ark is going to be bringing in millions upon millions of people every single year at a consistent rate. When actual people that have gone and surveyed it and surveyed the interest in it says that it's going to be big at first and then it's going to dwindle in size as far as attendance goes, right? And so,
of course, you can only go once.
Yeah. And so basically it's going to look really good at first, but then the park's going to get into serious trouble and it's not going to be able to pay back that loan from the state. And so basically the state's going to be out like $10 million or so. And, they're not going to be able to get that money back because the park isn't responsible for paying it back if it doesn't make money.
How could state government be so short-sighted in a place like that? Are they that happy to pander to the Christian boobs that are going to go to this thing once because it's expensive? You go once, you're not going to go back, and you're not going to get new people. The thing about Disney World is there's always new people coming along who want to go, but this, once you've played to your audience, nobody else.
Godless, that you make a great point, because it's funny what I was told, and when we were there, of the 91 million that Megan mentioned, 65 million was bonds, and another 26 million was going to be donations. So he just said bonds. I immediately thought that these were probably private bonds, venture capitalists perhaps. But no, you're saying that these are levied by the state of Kentucky, paid back by property tax, and you don't have to pay them back if it's not profitable?
Well,
you're right.
Exactly.
Kentucky could lose money. Is that true?
Oh yeah, well, there's an article on the Friendly Atheist where they break it down really well, and that's where I got my information from. But that's basically it. I mean, they got those millions of dollars in bonds, right, and they're supposed to pay them back with property taxes. But yet that only works if the park's going to be profitable, and it just doesn't seem like the park's going to be profitable at all.
And of course, ironically, the park won't pay any property taxes.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, they have all these grand ideas of people coming from all over the world to see the Ark, and that's just not going to happen. And there's not going to be a new Ark story. How are you going to update this and bring in new attractions to get people coming in?
Right, it's divine work.
I would think that, the collecting of the actual two of every species will probably take the rest of time. So there's that.
It's fake animals. It's
Well,
fake
now,
animals,
hold
but they're
on.
going to have real animals too.
Yeah, we got to be specific now. They got to be kinds of animals. So therefore, if you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna go and get these two lions, like a lion and a lioness. No. They just need one big house cat because that's gonna represent all of the feline species, and that's one kind of animal. That's quite literally.
If I took my ass to the Ark,
Do it.
if I went to the Ark and saw a cat representing all the felines, the giant genus that is felinus, I would be very, very upset. I would demand my money
Lynxes,
back.
tigers, bobcats,
Everything.
snowcats,
It's serval cats, every kind of cat.
saber-tooth
My
tigers.
personal favorite, the cheetah.
Well, yeah, and in the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate, Bill Nye, he pointed out how, in order, like, if you restricted it, if you played the creationist game and you restricted it down to like the whatever a kind is, which isn't really properly defined, but if you were to restrict it down that far, that means that 11 new species per day would have to come into existence in order for us to see the amount of different species that we have today. So I mean, that's 11. That's quite literally one animal pooping out another species of the animal, like in the same genus and whatnot. I mean, or however you want to define it. It's quite literally one animal pooping out a completely different animal.
We do have a recording of this. I'm hoping to get my hands on it to do some transcription to share with the atheist masses.
I'd like to see that because I missed the happy night.
Yeah, I had to leave early. It was an hour and a half in at least of him just talking. No, I was just stunned that this is where we are. We're still thinking in these terms and believing that these stories were real. They're little, not even all the religious community believes that they're real.
So you guys saw him face to face. What's your take? Does he really believe it, or is he a scam artist? Or is he a scam artist?
He believes it.
He believes it.
And he's hugely egotistical. I would like to count how many times he said, "This is going to be huge. This is going to be big." I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, I mean, he thinks that he's spitting the truth. I mean, he thinks that everybody's wrong, he's right, and he's right because he has a book. And that's...
Isn't there... Sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't there plenty of room in Australia to build this Ark? I mean, don't they have...
Well, interesting
miles
enough,
miles of wasteland there.
There's not enough gullible people to go.
Uninhabitable.
There's not enough idiots to go, and it has to be in America.
Well, interestingly enough, I think what the reason why he's in America is that people in Australia wouldn't buy his bull crap. So
that's what I mean.
He had to move his operations here because we have an untold amount of millions of gullible people.
Right, and he liked to say that the reason why they picked Kentucky, or the greater Cincinnati area, as what he called it, was to reach the most amount of people. But probably the real reason is what you said. They were able to get state bond funding in an extremely red, very conservative, very religious state.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you look at the newest governor that got elected for Kentucky, I mean, he is actively seeking to give Ken Ham money for this park. Like, he wants to violate the Constitution and say, hey, Ken Ham, here's some money to build your crappy little park.
Wow. That really is something. Ken did not take any questions, but the Imam of Incertitude is not pushed away that easily. So I tracked him down, and I took notes during the piece. That's how I know 550 feet long, 85 feet high. That's 300 cubits and 50 cubits if you care. But anyways, I asked him about. He mentioned specifically it would take 150-mile-an-hour wind to knock this over, or it could resist that kind of wind. And I said, wow, this is an impressive structure. And he also went into the engineering methods, new ones that they had to create in order to build this. And I said, how could Noah have done this by himself? And he did not have a good answer for that. Instead, he kind of said God's grace. And then further, I asked him if for some reason Noah had a ton of helpers and they got this thing done, that the tsunami-like insanity of 300 inches of water coming down per hour would create a tsunami that would decimate the hull. And I asked him how the hull withstood that kind of, debris force. And again, he used magic that the God covered the ark. So why do we need any of this? I mean, if it's all magic, you could just be in a bubble.
Indeed.
I don't remember a mention of an umbrella over the ark.
That is a great point.
Like Fairman Tree said, if God could part the Red Sea for Moses, why couldn't he just part the flood and make a little dry patch for Noah?
And Megan makes an unbelievable point. If the rain is still coming down at 300 inches an hour, it's going to be on the deck of the ark, and then it's going to fall down inside. How are they going to bilge this?
Well, I think
I've never thought of that.
It suffers from something first, though. The amount of rain that it would need to come down in such a short amount of time for this whole flood to happen would actually cause the air to be so humid that it would be like breathing water. So basically, it doesn't matter if he built an ark, he would drown standing on the deck of the ark just breathing the air.
I don't know if you guys know this, but a couple of years ago there was because you keep saying he didn't have help, but I have to disagree because there was a documentary. I don't know if everybody saw it on Noah's Ark with Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly. So they actually explained a lot of this. It was really fascinating. There was these rock creatures that were fallen angels of some sort. That's how he actually got it done. Whatever it was. Thank you, Brian. Golems, whatever. But yeah, it was just right there on film for you to see how he did it all.
And didn't he have about 300 years to do it?
Yeah, something crazy like that. And he had that drug, whatever they burned to put the animals to sleep,
Yeah.
So that they didn't have to
Science.
So, it's really it's actually been all well explained through that documentary, a fascinating documentary from a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I love that documentary. It was my favorite one.
Right. Speaking of movies, I'm going to slip in a break here. It's the MythicistMKE show, and it's already 2:30. We're having fun talking to Godless Engineer from Alabama, but I want to give a shout out to all of our peeps who support. It includes the Mythicist, the atheist community of Milwaukee Atheists, doing great podcasts and videos on YouTube. Look them up, and of course support our own efforts on YouTube. We have a great series called Holy Shit, which is available for you to subscribe to and upvote and all that good stuff on YouTube, as well as this podcast, which is archived there. We're up to almost 3,000 likes on YouTube, isn't it? It's getting pretty good.
Which one? The Holy Shit video?
No, just the MythicistMKE.
You find
something like for that, and look forward to producing Batman and Jesus this coming year.
Indeed.
A full-length real documentary.
Godless, have you seen the Holy Shit videos? Do you have a favorite, or what's your commentary?
Well, I watched the very first one and I loved it. And ashamedly, I haven't been able to watch the other ones, but they all seem really interesting. In the very first one, I can't remember the exact content of it. I know it was a list of things, but I just remember watching it and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But I've been pretty busy, so I haven't been able to. 'Really keep up with them, but I plan on getting caught up here soon.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're going to want to check out the latest one, Top 10 Killers in the Bible. It has David Fitzgerald and Killer Priest in making a little appearance
Cameo
in
roles.
those. Yes. Thanks, Rob.
It's good stuff.
It's really funny. It's really funny. It's fun for the whole family. You know, sit down with your kids, put it on.
And before I forget, awesome Jason Lawson is consistently reminding us to tell everyone to look for us on iTunes. We are now available on iTunes. The Mythicist Milwaukee Show, very, very easy to find, like, and subscribe on iTunes. So thanks to Awesome Lawson.
Right. And a small correction, is not a cameo appearance by David Fitzgerald. It is by Killer Priest, but
it's actually a featured role for
it is. Do you remember which one? It is a featured role for, starts with a J?
For what?
Jephthah.
Oh, yes, his actual role that he played, yes. The names are tough, aren't they? Bible names.
Can you say Shibboleth? Shibboleth. Yeah.
I cannot. I would be.
You would be murdered and taken out and slain
I would be headed
at the shores of the Jordan. Yeah, you've got to check it out, Godless. It is absolutely brilliant.
No, yeah, definitely. I do want to. There's a lot of content on YouTube that I got to get caught up with, but that is definitely like on the very top of my list.
Speaking of which.
Yes. I was checking out your channel, as I do, and I have a bone to pick with you.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, I'm
trouble.
sorry, but it's got to be done. One of your latest videos, and I don't know all the names of everyone involved, but this whole Thunderfoot thing needs to stop.
What do you mean, like talking about the situation, or?
Yes. Yeah, there needs to be no more time spent on the internet going over this. Why do you think this has lasted so long? Why do you think there's been so much interest in this feud?
Well, I think that there's such an interest in the feud, but only because they keep it going. They keep, putting out these videos where they make these claims against like Thunderfoot or against other people that don't agree with them. And, they call for, like for instance, I just saw one where one of the women involved said that this other guy is stalking her on Twitter, and she called the FBI, and she called all these like bullying like services and whatnot. And it's just like, does the FBI not have like a trash bin labeled "Here are useless complaints," and it just kind of throws it? Because it's almost like they hurt my feelings on the internet, and I need you to stop them. Is what it amounts to. But it just seems to me like they are the ones that are keeping it going. Thunderfoot himself has replied to direct like accusations towards him. But see, it's always been like replies to stuff that has been claimed about him or done to him. Like what started it all off was when they sent a letter to his employer, making all these baseless accusations about him being a Nazi and a socialist and all this other stuff, and basically trying to get him fired from his job. And so, I mean, they kind of kicked it off, and then they keep it going with like every time that they bring it up. And to me personally, if it were me, and I know this for a fact because I've been in several little feuds online. If you just stop responding to it, you stop caring about it, like themselves, then it'll go away. And that's what I did in my position. I made a video against the guy, and he came at me hard. And, he made all these videos about me, but I just, I think I made one other video about him explaining the situation to people, and then that was it. I dropped it. And it's really as simple as it can be, but see, I think the problem is that these people that are doing this love the attention, and they love being the victim. And so that's just my own personal idea about them. I mean, I could be completely off base, but that's just how it seems to me.
Yeah, because you're a pretty down-to-earth guy, so of course you left it alone, and I think maybe that's what we need to do, is stop commenting, stop watching these ridiculous videos, because we have so many other people to speak out against, i.e. Ken Ham.
More worthy adversaries.
I have a motto I live by, and MythicistMKE live by: stay away from the crazy. And I think you have the same sentiment. So
yeah, and I would say that
this is just my 2 cents too.
No, I understand. And I mean, these videos, because I think I've only put out, I think maybe 2, about the situation. And I mean, truly, they're kind of really out of my realm as far as my YouTube channel goes, because I do, like, I normally have theme days on my channel, where Mondays I talk about mythicist stuff, and then on Fridays I do fallacies, and then in between there it's a mixture of Bible stuff, where I kind of comment on that, or on like current news, like political stuff. And so I would say that these videos are really out of character, I guess, for me, but I still felt like shining some light on the situation from an outside party might benefit some people out there that are are interested in the subject. So that was my motivation in putting out the 2 videos.
Yeah. I just it's all these different replies are just cluttering up my YouTube feed, because I love YouTube. That's forget Twitter and all that. I am a YouTube person, and so are you. So
that one was eating at you. You got it off your chest. It'll be all right.
Oh my gosh, just there's so many more important things that we need to be looking at, and like you said, that's what you normally are doing, and we appreciate that.
Well, I know.
He's Godless Engineer.
It's turned into the Hatfield and the McCoys. You can't even remember what the original war was about.
Do you think there is part of that? That always was an interesting argument to me, kind of like the Palestinians and the Israelis. If they give it up, if they finally make peace, if they forget the past, if they start over, do they lose their sense of self? Do they lose their whole identity? Because I'm not so much who I am who I am by not being who my enemy is.
That's a good point, Rob. There's identity politics being created. What do you think, Godless?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with any kind of feud, there has to be one side that kind of puts it down first, and I guess takes the higher road. And I really feel like some people try to do that, but then others are like, no, you're staying in this fight because it's the only thing that I have in my life.
yeah, it's become your identity.
Well, taking the high road is what we try to do here at MythicistMKE, the undisputed leader in the local secular movement here in Milwaukee. We like to pride ourselves on being a team that gets things done. And one of the other things we're getting done is a debate series. I know you're looking forward to this as a mythicist yourself, Godless. A couple of big debates planned as part of a series called Buzz Belief. A spirited debate series is going to take place as it goes in pubs probably, but these first 2 that have been planned are going to be in major venues. You got one over there, Fritz? We'll get to them in a second with Myth of the Day. But for right now, we're talking about the debate series. And what's the date on the first one?
March 19th.
March 19th. Richard Carrier is going to debate Justin Bass, who's not just a Jesus historian, he's a Jesus freak, apparently, actual Christian and a creationist.
Good speaker.
Evangelist, creationist. Yeah, but a lot of them are. They have their head around their circular arguments, but we'll be looking forward to his dismantling at the hands of a Richard Carrier on that date. And as well, the big giant one that people have been waiting for, Bart Ehrman versus Robert Price.
That's right.
On October 21st, and that one's going to bring myth geeks from every corner of the cupboard.
Right, and we're that this is our Rob's and I's position. Where we do want Richard Carrier to win, but of course we are going to set the stage for a fair battle. There is not going to be any tricks to be played. There will be no chair in the back of the head while the ref isn't looking, WWF style, none of that. It will be a fair and balanced debate. And we do want an audience that is split. We do want theists, we want atheists, we want I don't knows, all of that.
And we will be discovering the answer. We will answer finally. We'll all know the truth. Does Jesus exist or not? I'm looking forward to that.
Right. Yeah, the historical Jesus, the Price-Ehrman debate, that's never happened. The 2 probably arguably top scholars on whether he is a real person based on scholarship and
Right.
not based on
We could put the
magic.
argument to bed. There'll be no more discussion after the debate. I love it.
Yeah,
Well-
it will end it once and for all.
Yeah, and just to throw my 2 cents in here about Ehrman, you know, I've read through his introduction on his Did Jesus Exist book and his first chapter several times, and I have to say he comes off like really condescending in the even in the introduction. Like he acts like this whole topic is beneath him to even consider, and I don't know. I really don't like that approach to it, like coming off as, oh, this is so beneath me, but you know, since I get bugged about it, I'm going to talk about it.
No doubt, no doubt. It's time for a little segment we like to call Myth of the Day. Here, as always, is the Mythmeister himself. He's tall, dark, and handsome. He is Antonio. Take it away, my friend. Antonio with Myth of the Day.
As always, thank you so much, Godless, for being on our show today. And also thank you for all of those retweeters and heart likers on Twitter. A new little emoji. Saturnalia is the reason for the Christmas season. Saturnalia was an ancient Roman festival in honor of the deity Saturn held on December 17th through December 23rd. The popularity of Saturnalia continued into the 3rd and 4th centuries AD, and as the Roman Empire came under Christian rule. Below are some of the practices of this pre-Christian holiday. So in addition to heavy drinking, Saturnalia was known as a festival of lights. People would practice private gift giving. There would be caroling in the streets. Trees were decorated. Wreaths were hung above doorways. The wealthy would serve the poor, and food was made into different shapes. And that is our quick myth of the day.
Different shaped food. I like that. I like dinosaur shaped chicken nuggets and shit.
I got chicken nugget shaped chicken nuggets.
Nugget shaped chicken
Yeah,
nuggets?
locally made, so that makes it okay.
I make my own chicken nuggets at home. I find them quite satisfying. And then that pink slime, they're excellent nuggets of real white meat chicken.
I have not been in your kitchen.
You have not? My kids enjoy it. Myth of the day. Thank you, Antonio. And we want to make sure everyone goes to Facebook to find Mythicist Milwaukee, Twitter at MythicistMKE. You can always tweet us live on the show with questions, and we will get it, and we will ask your question and get an answer. We are also on Tumblr. We are on Pinterest. We are on Stumble Upon, which I still have not stumbled upon. I don't even know what that one looks like. We're on Instagram. We have a brand new Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, Mythicist Milwaukee. And what else? We have a Reddit. We have just every damn thing. The YouTube, of course, we've already talked about. But find us on social media and like it. Godless, what are you working on next? When we first picked up the phone, you were talking about your new endeavor. We'll remind the audience.
Oh yes, my new endeavor. I'm gonna be like, I kind of previewed it a little bit. I'm gonna be reading through Bart Ehrman's "Did Jesus Exist" book, along with I have multiple sources that I use for my "Did Jesus Exist" series on YouTube. And that would include Robert Price. I have his incredible Shrinking Son of Man. I have Randall Helm's Gospel of Fictions, Dominic Crossan's Power of Parable. I have a multitude of books to pull a lot of good information from, and but I'm going to be working on reading through Bart Ehrman's "Did Jesus Exist" from a mythicist point of view. And so I've got the introduction, I've got it like written up and summarized kind of along with my own opinions inserted where needed. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through it and I'm going to be taking notes each chapter and sort of breaking down the chapter and giving responses to things that he says in it. As a mythicist, as somebody from a really, I would say, a reasonable mythicist position. There's a lot of mythicist positions out there that are kind of along the ways of conspiracy theorists. I've met a few myself, so I know that they exist, and I feel like what I subscribe to, as well as what MythicistMKE subscribes to, is a very reasonable and well thought out like position on mythology and the Jesus myth in general.
Is there something that you're looking forward to being discussed during the Price-Ehrman debate? Or do you think going through and reading his book will help you come up with some talking points for that?
Well, yeah, I think that reading his book will definitely give me insight onto, how he would respond to certain arguments that Price is going to bring up. For instance, one thing that really bugs me is the argument from silence that they like to bring up, saying that, just because nothing was said about it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's like, okay, true, but, we have good reason to have evidence of somebody mentioning him, like even in the simplest respects. Like he should have been mentioned because of the amount of records that we have from the first century, but we just don't simply see that. And it seems like Bart Ehrman and people that argue against the mythicist position of his ilk seem to just kind of open up that hole and be like, oh yeah, Jesus is in this big black hole, and he's in there somewhere. You just got to trust me about it, and you don't need to question whether or not he's actually there. He's there, we promise. You just believe it. And how I came to my position is I took my position on God and I just simply applied it to Jesus. And I couldn't reconcile saying that he was an actual person.
Right.
Well, yeah, my favorite argument, maybe you have one, but I remember the one that completely solidified, or at least, pushed my position across mythical Jesus, was the fact that Philo of Alexandria, living from 20 to 50 AD, at least that's his primary working years, his special interest, he's a Jew, and his special interest is Judea, and this area that Jesus was said to have lived, and he does not mention him in any of his writings, and we have nearly all of his writings. And the fact that he wouldn't mention a guy that was creating miracles and having a big following, and this guy is a superstar. I mean, this is Right Said Fred in 1990, right? I mean, he's big for at least a little bit. Why don't you mention it?
Yeah, well,
it's like leaving out Elvis.
I know exactly how Ehrman and people like Ehrman would respond to that, and they would pretty much just say, well, he just wasn't that big of a figure. He was very unknown. Nobody really knew him, and all this other stuff. And so they pretty much just chalk him up to being so obscure that nobody would have recorded him. But, if you've actually watched David Fitzgerald's talk on the MythicistMKE channel, you'll see where there's this list of failed prophets that are so they're so unknown that we've never heard of them, and most people wouldn't, but they are of the same caliber as Jesus would have been, and so you would think that we would have evidence for it, but they don't ever have a good response for that.
Right. At a minimum, you could get either miracles are so common that nobody notices, or he didn't do any miracles at all. But I suppose if you're arguing historicity, you don't necessarily need miracles for that. So I can see why the argument might work, but it's weird.
It's a little flimsy.
A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, at a minimum, you're saying, okay, if they win and say there is a historical Jesus, but he's not divine and he doesn't have the miracles, what good is it? That's great. Marcus Aurelius was a real person. Wow. That does nothing for against your faith.
You gonna go to the Reason rally?
Oh,
Godless?
yes, definitely. We're planning for that. We're hoping to be there to meet a lot of people, plus go and see the sites in Washington D.C. I don't know exactly who's going to be speaking there this year, but I know that I actually had only just started being really open and out about my atheism when the first one had happened, and so I'm really eager to go to the second one.
Good deal. We're going to go on force ourselves here. We've already created events for people to join in. We're going to carpool and party hard in Washington and join the crowd. Hopefully podcast some of the time. At least do some recordings that we can use.
Oh, awesome. I really hope that I get to see you guys there.
Yeah, for sure. I think we will. I always envision like the equivalent of Radio Row at the Super Bowl, where we might be able to just hang out and see the bigwigs. Can't help but rub elbows with big and some of the other folk in the movement that you don't normally get to see. Unless there's an opportunity like this where everybody gathers. It's going to be the World Cup of secular conferences every 4 years.
Oh yeah, I know. The last time, was it Eric Hovind? He went around the Reason Rally with his microphone, and he was challenging atheists. So you'll probably see some evangelists out there doing their thing.
We hope.
Be disappointed if there weren't. That's their calling. They need to evangelize. Where else are you going to go to get the word out to the sinners who need it, except a secular conference? So yeah, it makes sense.
So there you have it. Godless Engineer. Get to the Reason Rally. You can meet him in the flesh.
You're going to have a T-shirt on at Godless Engineer.
Oh yeah, I've got T-shirts. I've got T-shirts with the GE on it and everything. So I'll definitely be sporting some GE wear when I go down.
Nice. We got like 4 minutes left. You know what I wanted to ask you? Go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to ask him. You should put a locomotive on that. I would love to see the Godless Engineer with a KJV rushing through a tunnel.
Is it that kind of engineer? I've always wondered. Is it like a Choo Choo Charlie engineer, or is it like he's a podcast engineer?
I still like the train. I know I'm pushing.
No, well, I am a software engineer, so I could definitely make something work, I'm sure.
I wanted to ask you, being from Alabama, where do you stand, and where does Alabama at with the redneck flag? Is it still flying over the Capitol? Are you as an atheist? Are you out in support of just getting rid of that piece of crap, or are you a proud Alabama?
Well, no, I mean, down here, you got to understand this. It's like people think Dukes of Hazzard happened in Alabama, and so they've got like tattoos of the rebel flag on it. They wear the rebel flag with pride. I think I've counted maybe 10 trucks with the rebel flags like hitched on the back of them right above the truck nuts. And so it doesn't amaze me that people are still enamored with it. They feel that it represents something about their heritage or whatnot, which, if you want to spin it that way, that's fine. But to me, it's always going to be rooted in the Civil War, and what really sparked the Civil War was slavery and wanting to subjugate your fellow man. And people might disagree with me on the origin or whatnot, but that's just where I kind of stand with it. Is that I personally don't look down on anybody because they're sporting their heritage, but at the same time, it's like that's not really like I'm not that redneck. I'm really not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I remember Pantera used to wave the flag during their concerts, and it kind of made us uncomfortable. But it had that association with like Southern pride.
Leonard Skinner. Woo!
Woo, yeah, woo.
Y'all do have Muscle Shoals. That's something Alabama has. Muscle Shoals, legendary recording studio.
Oh yeah, I've been out there a few times, and they've actually got a music Hall of Fame, and it's like the sign is bigger than the actual Hall of Fame.
Beautiful.
Not gonna draw like the Ark, apparently.
Yeah.
Just has to be big.
All right.
That's all.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. We are about out of time. I'm going to sign off on the MythicistMKE show here on Sunday. Who's next week? My connection is on. Let me bring
Jason Rigby.
Oh, that's right. Next week is Casper from Atheist Republic. He's Jason Rigby. Join us again next Sunday at 2 p.m. Central, as always, for the MythicistMKE show. And thanks to Godless Engineer. Godless, thanks for joining us, man, and take care.
All right, you guys
say
too.
good night, Gracie.
All right, man. We'll stay on the line after we're done here. We will talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. See you next week. Signing off.